Welcome back to Pop's Garage.
Yeah, we got a show for you today.
Yeah, we've got loads of stuff going on because we're in prep ready for Ireland.
Talking about Ireland, have you seen Welly today?
I know she went on to do a CVT. I haven't seen her since.
So go and find her.
Yeah, go for
Yeah,
it.
go and find her, Pops.
So, what have we got today?
Okay, right, one of the things we've got to do today is for the CCTV system to Thunderace.
Yes, is that just
So,
in case I have any...
Yeah, so we get any horrible people come up behind him and then overtake him. So we'll show you how to do that.
Yes, and we're also looking at our specialist tool today.
Yeah, which is, if you're in a tight squeeze, get it, tight squeeze.
That's so pressured.
But,
Yeah, we're looking at press today.
Yeah, so we can show you the sort of things you can do with it.
Excellent. Oh,
Oh, there's
is
the
that
door.
done?
Oh,
Hello.
where you have been?
Finished with my CVT, yeah.
What happened?
Fast.
Well, excellent, excellent.
How did you find it?
It was absolutely fun. It was good fun. The instructor was amazing. It was really good, really knowledgeable. The company that we used was really nice.
So, excellent.
That's
Excellent.
good news all around then.
So, we'll be looking at some highlights in the
Yeah.
show today from Alison's CVT.
Yes, yes, and we will put the full version on the website as well, so if you want to watch it all the way through, then pop on there and have a look.
Definitely. Oh, I think Pops has got the tea.
Yep, so kettle's on,
Yes.
tea's going, so I think we'll go over to the Thunderace and have a look at that.
Excellent.
Okay, so as we said before, the job we're going to do today is fit a full CCTV system to the Thunderace. The one we chose is this one. This one's a very clever system. She has a front and a rear camera, as well as doing the recording. Full HD, so good clear imagery. It saves having to have the camera on the helmet and so forth when recording. So if anybody comes up behind you or overtakes you like an idiot, you've got it on the thing. We can also wire this one up to the ignition. So as soon as you start your bike, this starts recording. Stop your bike, this automatically stops. So you don't forget to actually turn it on and off when you want to just go out for a ride. This will automatically do it for you. So let's have a look what we've got in the box, shall we? This is our motorbike kit, so let's have a look what's in the box. So open the box. We have a bracket for holding the monitor. Little bag with some screws and some 3M stickers for the cameras. There's our monitor, which will go on the dashboard. 3 leads, which will be power and front and rear camera. What else we've got in here? We've got rear camera, front camera, and extension leads for the front and rear camera, and a power lead. So the only thing we need on this is a memory card. Oh, and for those that might need it, a user manual. So there we go. So we've got everything we need to fit a full CCTV system on the bike. The unit-up, connecting it to the battery. Just use the sat-nav holder for now to hold it. And what this will mean is that when we get our cameras, we can then put the cameras in the right place on the bike to see what I want to see. We could just screw the cameras to the bike, but then we haven't got a clue until that's connected up to what's seen. So as you can see, we've got the screen going, and if I turn around and we can look at spanners. So there we go, spanners on the camera. I don't know if you can see that on the screen. And so you can see quickly the rear camera is working nicely. So if you keep an eye on the screen now, we'll move around to the back of the bike and we'll hold the camera roughly where we want to put it, which will be just there on top of the number plate, and that should give you a nice view of the rear of the bike.
That's good.
Yeah. Okay, and so we do the same with the front one now. So we've got our front camera. So we're going to put the front camera.
Yes, spot on.
Yep, spot on. So now we know the location for the cameras. We can then hardwire these cameras on and feed the cables through and then connect it up properly. So let's get the cameras on. cameras are now fitted, and you can see on the screen nice imagery from the front and the rear of the bike. The cameras do have nice little brackets, so you can tweak the brackets should really be when we're on the bike. Now for the screen, what we're going to do is we're going to forego the little fancy elbow bracket they give us, put a sticker straight onto the back of the monitor and actually put it onto the handlebars direct, just like that. Okay, so cables are all tied up now. Now one important thing to remember when actually doing the cables, especially around the headstock, is make sure wires don't get trapped. So roughly put the cables in place, just turn your headstock from side to side like that, and just check there's no excessive strain or anything on the cables. Full lock to full lock, which means that you won't suddenly rip the cable out when doing it. Also, as with the rear section, when the cables are coming through over the frame, make sure that when the seat goes on, it doesn't crush your cables. You don't want crushed cables, believe me. Okay, so the last job now we've got to do is wire the battery up. Now this one has a fuse link part of the way down, so what we're going to do, because it's only a low amperage draw, is we're going to just cable this up so we don't have to, instead of cutting it, so we can use a fuse link, and then we're going to show you how to connect it into the fuse box so that it will actually switch on with the ignition. Okay, so what we want to do now is we want to actually connect the battery up to the camera so that when we switch the ignition on the bike, the camera will automatically come on. Now one advantage we've got, if you look down here, is we've got our fuse box just here. Now if you open the fuse box, as you can see, we've got 5 fuses. The 2 blue ones are actually ignition fed. And the way we can show that, I don't know if you can see the meter needle. Just put that onto volts. There we go. So I don't know if you can see the needle on that. If we put that onto the fuse, then onto there, then if you can turn this camera on, bike on for spanners, instantly we've got voltage. Turn the bike off, we lose voltage. So confirm that those 2 blue fuses are indeed ignition sourced. So all we have to do is remove the fuse box, which is just simply 2 little screws. And if we look underneath the fuse box, there we have the brown wire here, or the brown and blue. That is the ignition feed. So we've got a nice slot there for a bullet connector. So we take our cable from the camera. Bearing in mind this is fused, so we haven't got to worry about connecting it direct. We put our bullet connector on the cable. Use our ratchet strip clippers and just simply crimp that onto there, and then we can plug that straight into the fuse box. Now this one is a straightforward battery connector, so we just simply loosen off that one, we slide it underneath and then screw it back down. Now if we turn the ignition on the bike, if you watch the monitor here, turn the ignition on the bike, red light comes on and instantly the camera comes on. There we go, starts recording automatically. Switch the bike off, camera goes off. So we now have the camera set to the ignition so that every time we ride the bike, the camera will automatically record front and rear on the thing. As long as he puts the memory card in, because he hasn't put a memory card in. And that is how easy it is to do, guys. Always remember to have everything fused. Then if it does go wrong, blow a fuse and not burn your bike. So there we go. Nice, easy, helpful hint for you.
Pop's garage tip.
Alright, so
So this is Nick, my instructor for the day. Can you tell me what CBT is?
but CCTV compulsory basic training, yeah?
Yep.
Okay, so the legal requirement for all new riders to complete a course of approved training to validate the provisional entitlement for unaccompanied on-road use and learn illegal motorcycles, yeah? Up to 125cc, 11 kilowatts power outputs, just under 50 miles.
This is the bike we're going to be using today.
Yep.
Yeah. Yamaha YBR 125, learning vehicle 125.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so just going to go basically through the main control of the machine, where they're located. We start up on the right hand side of the bar.
Yep.
Okay, so it's control the length of the road speed and gearing. Yeah. So those drivers we're used to accelerate this foot. We're going to use this hand today. Yeah. Twist the throttle towards the speed.
Have you had that email?
Which one?
The one off that guy needing hand?
Oh, the one I've said. Yeah. Point. We had an email off a guy how he's broken a stud on his car, but he's knocked the stud loose, can't get it out. So we'll show you just how to get it out. Okay, just like Blue Peter, here's one we prepared earlier. Okay, so here we have broken wheel stud on the hub. Now, as you can clearly see, we've knocked it loose, but won't come out because there's not enough clearance. Now, the Mark 1 Focus and that have a little slot where you can line it up and push it out. Not the Mark 2. You can go all the way around and it still doesn't drop out. So what we need is a specialist bit of kit to actually remove this wheel stud. Now, most of you won't be able to afford this piece of kit in your workshops, but if you go to a local garage, I'm sure they'll press it out for you, because what you need is one of these babies down here. Okay, one of these. This is a 10-ton floor press. You can get taller ones, shorter ones, bigger ones, smaller ones. These will retail around about 100 to 150 pounds. But it's a very useful piece of kit. If you're doing lots of maintenance work, for instance doing bushes and leaf springs and all that sort of work, then it's a very worthwhile piece of kit to actually invest into. But for now, what we're going to do is show you how we press the bearing out so we can change this wheel stud. Now, when you've got a piece of kit like this, you won't use that often. So every time you do want to use it, as you can see clearly by this plate here, this exerts 10 tons of pressure. That's a lot of force. So you need to make sure this equipment is in top condition. Check your pipe, make sure there's no kinks or leaks at all in that pipe. If there is, don't use it. Make sure your connectors like here are completely tight and secure, so there's no leaks. Make sure there's no damage to the arbor, because any damage to this, once you're under considerable strain, will fracture. Not it might, it will fracture. And also check your pins. The main cradle here sits on these pins. Make sure these pins are securely home and, again, secure and safe. Then, once you've done these basic checks, you're ready. Oh, one more thing we must do. Let's put on our safety goggles. I know we're pressing, seems odd having these, but if you're pressing and you get a little bit of metal fly off, if it goes ping, it'll go for your eye. So, safety. Okay, so now we're ready. With the hub, as you can see, it sits nicely onto our arbor. And so we don't need to put anything fancy in there to press it out. What we do need to do is put a solid block in to help sit onto the bearing. Because what that will help is, because it's slightly out on the top, it will help focus the pressure underneath. Once we've done that, we just simply jack the ram down, hold the block in place just until it grips it. As soon as it grips it, let go. Keep your fingers and everything well away. should. Okay, this one's moving now. I don't know if you can see, or you won't be able to see from here, but the ramp is now going down. Now sometimes when doing this job, you will hear a big bang when it goes. Don't worry, that's quite normal. It doesn't always do it, but now you see, we pushed it down enough to get the wheel stud out. That's all we need to do. So now we take our new wheel stud, and that's the difference between the two, as you can see. So we take our new one, we drop it into the hole. Oh, we've got to go a little bit further down, because it's obviously a longer stud. We just drop it gently, straight in, and that's it, the new one is in. So we can release the pressure on the jack. You don't need to pull this up by hand, but it can be quicker. We take our block out, and as you can see quite clearly there, how we pressed the bearing out, and we got the new stud in. So we can then pull that stud in now with a nut, and then we press the bearing back into the housing. These wheel studs you can pick up for around about £3 each. So if you've got these sort of tools handy, then it's always worth changing the wheel kit stud yourself. Now because this isn't a kit, we just bought the stud, you don't come with little fancy bits to pack it out to do it. That's easy. All you need is a couple of nuts. These ones are, oh, what the size of nuts are these ones? These are M16 nuts. We just put 2 nuts on there. We got our wheel stud, or wheel nut, and we just screw that onto the end, locating it into the centre of the nut. Now when you've got the stud in, just rotate it a little bit and you'll feel where it locks into the original spline. Just there. And then all we need to do is tighten our wheel nut up. And what it will do is it will pull the stud in. Okay, so once you've tightened all that up, pull the wheel stud in, you just simply take off our lug nut, 2 washers, or 2 nuts, put the nuts back in the tub, and there we have it. Our lug nut stud is now replaced, so that's all good and done. But now we've got to put the bearing back in the housing, and all we do is reverse procedure with the press and push it simply back in, and that's it. So we put the hub back in, put our block back on top to press it back in, and what I'm going to do this time is use a plate on top of it because we're slightly off centre and we want to be able to push cleanly onto the drum. So we lock our pump off and we just simply push down, and you should see the hub actually going back into the housing. So just keep an eye on it, make sure you're on enough. And what we should have is that shoulder should be level with the hub housing. So almost there. That's it, just like that. Release the pressure, which will ring the ram back up. Take our block out. See now, we've got 5 decent studs and pressed it back in, and turns nice and freely, so we're all good there. And you'll notice in the back you can see that little charcoal ring there. That is actually a magnet. That's the reluctor ring for the ABS, so you must make sure that that is never damaged. But there we go, that is how easy you can change a wheel look.
It's nice to have the team together for once.
Yeah, actually we're all here. It's
And the apprentice.
It's like being at the NEC, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
But,
thank you, NEC.
So, Ali passed the CBT.
Yeah.
We got the press working.
Bike's all ready for the island trip.
We got the bearing out.
Yes, which even more so, so
Yeah,
we get that new
brilliant.
stud change.
And still got pots.
Yeah, as anybody who've hit the kettle.
Yeah.
Are we going to tell him before we leave?
No.
Nah.
Oh, you're rotten.
So yeah.
You keep that secret as well. Don't tell him.
So the next thing you'll see of us will be when we're in Ireland.
Yeah. So our May show will be the island special, so you can see what we got up to in over in Emerald Land.
Yes.
Also keep keep an eye on Facebook because we'll be doing live updates
Yes,
on the way there. And before we go,
Yep, Facebook and Twitter will be twittering.
tweeting.
Tweeting.
Tweeting, Tonto.
Yes, be a little birdie, tweet.
And,
So keep safe, guys, and
See you next
we'll
time.
see you next time in
see you
Ireland.
soon. Thank you
Right.
for watching.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. I've been left on my own. Just me and Sprocket. What can I do? Who's making the tea?